You know what nobody tells you about success? The harder you chase it, the faster it runs away. And here's the mind-bending part. The people who seem to have everything, the opportunities, the relationships, the breakthroughs, they're not chasing anything at all. They've figured out something that completely flips the script on everything we've been taught about ambition and achievement. This isn't about giving up or becoming passive. This is about understanding a psychological principle so powerful that once you see it, you can't unsee it. And by the end of this, you'll understand why the smartest people you know have stopped running and started magnetizing everything they want straight to them. Think about the last time you desperately wanted something. Maybe it was a job, a relationship, or recognition for your work. Remember that feeling? That tightness in your chest, the constant checking, the mental rehearsals, the anxiety that kept you up at night. Now think about something that came to you effortlessly, something you weren't even actively pursuing. Notice the difference. That's not coincidence, that's physics, that's psychology. That's the fundamental truth about how attraction actually works in human systems. When you're in chase mode, you're broadcasting a frequency of lack. You're telling the universe, and more importantly, you're telling your own nervous system that you don't have what you need. And here's where it gets interesting. Your brain is designed to prove your beliefs correct. If you believe you're lacking something, your reticular activating system will filter reality to show you more evidence of that lack. You'll notice every rejection, every closed door, every person who has what you want. You're literally programming yourself to see scarcity. But smart people figured out the glitch in this system. They discovered that the moment you stop chasing, something extraordinary happens. Your energy shifts, your presence changes. You start operating from a place of completeness rather than neediness. And that shift, that's what changes everything. It's not mystical, it's behavioral psychology. When you're not desperate, you make better decisions, you're more creative, you're more present. You pick up on subtle cues that desperate people miss. You're more attractive because you're not trying to extract value from every interaction. You're simply being valuable, and value attracts. Always. Let's talk about what actually happens in your brain when you shift from chasing to attracting. Your nervous system has two primary states: sympathetic, which is your fight or flight response, and parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest state. When you're chasing, you're in chronic sympathetic activation. Your cortisol is elevated. Your decision-making is impaired. You're operating from your amygdala, your fear center, instead of your prefrontal cortex, your strategic thinking center. This is why desperate people make terrible decisions. They're literally thinking with the most primitive part of their brain. But when you stop chasing, when you ground yourself in your own worth and value, your nervous system regulates. You drop into parasympathetic dominance. Suddenly you're thinking clearly. You're picking up on opportunities you couldn't see before. You're making connections that weren't visible when you were in survival mode. You're operating from your highest intelligence instead of your most reactive impulses. Here's what smart people understand about energy dynamics. Every human interaction is an energy exchange. When you're chasing, you're energetically reaching, grasping, trying to take something from the other person. They feel it. Maybe not consciously, but their nervous system registers it. And what do people do when they feel someone trying to take from them? They pull back. They create distance. They become unavailable. It's not personal. It's protective. But when you're attracting, when you're grounded in your own completeness, you're not taking. You're offering, you're sharing, you're inviting, and people lean in. They want to be around you because being around you feels good. You're not depleting their energy. You're matching it. You're even amplifying it. That's magnetic presence. That's what attraction actually means. Now let's get practical, because this isn't just theory. This is about real behavioral changes that create real results. First pattern shift. Smart people stopped seeking external validation. They built their own internal validation system. This doesn't mean they don't care what others think. It means they don't need others to think anything about them to feel okay. They've done the internal work to know their own worth, independent of external feedback. And paradoxically, the moment you stop needing validation is the moment you start receiving it. Because you're no longer desperate for it. You can receive it cleanly, without grasping for more. Second pattern shift. They stopped trying to force timing. They learned to distinguish between inspired action and desperate action. Inspired action feels expansive. It comes from possibility. Desperate action feels contractive. It comes from fear of missing out. Smart people wait for inspired action. They trust their intuition. They move when movement feels aligned, not when movement feels compulsory. And this patience? This creates space for synchronicity, for timing that works, for opportunities that actually fit. Third pattern shift, and this is huge. Smart people stopped overfunctioning. They stopped doing things for people that those people should do for themselves. They stopped over-explaining, over-proving, over-delivering before anyone asked. They learned that when you do too much too soon, you're actually communicating that you don't believe you're enough as you are. You're trying to compensate for perceived inadequacy. But when you simply show up as yourself, offer what's genuinely yours to offer, and let people choose whether they want it, you're operating from authentic power. And authentic power is what attracts, not effort, not hustle. Not desperation disguised as enthusiasm. Let's talk about the relationship between detachment and desire, because this is where most people get confused. Detachment doesn't mean not caring. It means caring deeply while simultaneously releasing your grip on specific outcomes. It means wanting something and being completely okay if it doesn't happen. This sounds paradoxical, but it's actually where your real power lives. When you can hold desire and detachment simultaneously, you're free. You can move toward what you want without being controlled by the need for it. You can show up fully without being devastated by rejection. You can invest energy without making your worth dependent on results. This emotional flexibility is what separates people who attract from people who chase. Here's something smart people know about opportunity. Real opportunities rarely look like opportunities at first. They look like conversations, invitations, experiments, small moments that could become something. But you only see these subtle openings when you're not frantically searching for the big, obvious break. When you're in chase mode, you're looking for the finish line. You miss the starting blocks that are right in front of you. When you're in attraction mode, you're present, you're noticing, you're available to what's actually here rather than obsessing over what's not. And this presence, this is what allows you to recognize and respond to the real opportunities that are constantly flowing toward you. Smart people also stopped competing. They realized that comparison is the death of creativity. When you're measuring yourself against others, you're chasing their definition of success instead of defining your own. You're playing someone else's game by someone else's rules. But when you stop competing, when you focus on becoming more of who you authentically are rather than better than who someone else is, you step into a completely different paradigm. You're no longer in a zero-sum game where someone else's win is your loss. You're in an abundant universe where your unique expression creates its own category of value. And in that space, there's no competition. There's only contribution. Let's address the fear that comes up when you consider stopping the chase. What if nothing happens? What if I stop trying and everything falls apart? What if my fear is the only thing keeping things together? This fear is valid. And it's also based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how creation works. Chasing is not creating. Chasing is reacting. When you're chasing, you're responding to external circumstances, trying to manipulate outcomes, forcing things into being. That's exhausting, and it's not sustainable. But when you shift to attracting, You're actually creating. You're building internal stability. You're developing skills. You're becoming someone who naturally generates opportunities rather than someone who desperately pursues them. And that internal development, that's what lasts. That's what compounds. That's what creates the life you actually want to live. Here's the truth smart people have accepted. You cannot chase and attract simultaneously. They're opposite frequencies. One comes from lack, the other from abundance. One depletes, the other energizes. One repels, the other magnetizes. You have to choose. And choosing to attract means letting go of the illusion of control. It means trusting that when you become the person you're meant to be, do the work you're meant to do, and offer the value you're meant to offer, the right people and opportunities will find you. Not because the universe is magic, but because you're broadcasting a clear signal. You're no longer static and noise, you're signal, and signal attracts signal. So what does this look like in practice? It looks like focusing on building skills instead of collecting credentials. It looks like deepening relationships instead of expanding networks. It looks like creating value instead of seeking recognition. It looks like being interesting instead of trying to be impressive. It looks like showing up consistently in your own life instead of performing for an imagined audience. These are the quiet practices that create magnetic presence. These are the internal shifts that change external reality. And here's the final piece that brings this all together. Smart people realize that they already have everything they need to start attracting what they want, not in some distant future after they fix themselves or achieve some milestone. Right now, the version of you that exists today has enough, knows enough, is enough. The moment you accept that, the moment you stop chasing the person you think you need to become and start embodying the person you already are, everything changes. Your energy changes, your decisions change, your presence changes, and what you attract changes as a direct result. This isn't about becoming passive. This isn't about giving up on your dreams or settling for less. This is about understanding that the most powerful thing you can do is become so grounded in your own worth, so clear about your own value, so present in your own life, that what's meant for you can actually reach you. When you're running, you're a moving target. When you're rooted, you're a lighthouse, and lighthouses don't chase ships. They stand strong, beam bright, and let what's meant to find them come home. So here's your practice for this week. Notice when you're in chase energy. Notice the tightness, the urgency, the grasping, and when you catch yourself there, pause, breathe, ground. Ask yourself what you would do right now if you already had what you're chasing. Then do that thing, not as strategy, as reality. Because the truth is, you don't attract what you want. You attract who you are. Be the person who already has it and watch what happens. If this resonated with something you've been feeling, share it with someone who's stuck in the chase. Someone who needs permission to stop running and start receiving. Drop a comment with the biggest shift you're committing to. And remember, you don't need to chase anything that's truly meant for you. You just need to become someone it can't resist finding.